All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's open forum. Lots of excitement going on lately, and finally, you guys who have been with us for a while know that I love my buyer brokerage agreement, and finally, you guys have to use it. I've been telling you, please use it, and now you guys have to. But I am not gloating in this. I know it's a trying time for you guys. Which one of the main things I want to get across to you guys is we don't know a whole lot, and we are going to feel our way through it. But it's not the biggest deal in the world, and I don't think you're going to see all the changes that you think you're going to see. I don't think people are just going to stop offering buyer commission. And that's the reason I put that on-screen chat on there for you guys to see when you came in. The new home builders, unless they're in the MLS, have never had to offer you guys anything, but they have. Why? It's a rhetorical question, right? It's obvious why. So you'll bring them buyers. The same reason that you've always had sellers offer as much as you can, get them to the other side, right? To bring you buyers. Are you guys going to, and we're going to see what changes happen with it. Nobody knows for sure with the code of ethics, with this and that, but what we see is people are still offering, David Weekley, guys, I took 2 seconds to Google the nearest home builder to me. It's the first one that popped up, top of the page. I just want to do it completely randomly. I clicked on them. I saw they have a community near me. I asked them, what are they paying for commission in this community? Because you will get different answers in different communities. So I just picked random community, the one closest to me, and they said 3%. Why are they offering 3%? First of all, they never had to offer, even if they went into MLS, they never had to offer a dime. And the ones who do post in the MLS, do post their homes in MLS, have had to offer $1. But they've always offered something, right? When the market's tough, it was 5% plus bonuses. When the market was great, it was 1%, or a flat fee, but they've always done it based on the market. And right now the market's about in the middle, so they're offering 3%. Is that what you guys have seen as well? It is, right? People are offering 2.5%, 3% plus builders I'm talking about, plus bonuses. They've never had to offer that, guys. They've never had to. They always have done it. Why? Because they know that you control what your buyer looks at to some degree. And even if you have a buyer who wants a new house, they know they're competing with each other, just like your listings are competing with the ones down the street. So I will get to your questions. We're obviously going to go over the buyer brokerage agreement. Let's do some questions first. I've had some standing questions. I had one this morning from a gentleman who's in here right now asking, and I get this question a lot. You guys have completely blew me up over the weekend, which is great. I love it. I love that you're interested in there. And one of the questions I got is, I've got a listing coming up, tomorrow. That wasn't the case, but on April 1st, this guy has a listing coming up. What do I do differently? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We don't have any. So just do it like normal. First of all, nothing's going to change till the middle of July. They're saying, at least. So as far as your forms and your, I don't know about your forms, but as far as the MLS, nothing's going to change till the middle of July. So go forward like it is. You're still offering buyer commission, guys. I mean, if you want to do a good job listing and selling, you're going to still offer buyers commission, right? You're going to talk to your sellers about offering buyers commission. Nothing has changed. We've talked about this from the beginning of this whole lawsuit coming up, other than you used to have to offer $1. Now you don't. So that's it. Have you guys been offering $1? You haven't been. Let's get to some questions and we'll talk about the other things. So the answer to that is keep going forward like you have been going forward on your listings. Okay. Angie from Tampa.
Hey, Ryan. So how would you, in your words, explain to like a consumer, a client, or just the general public, the reason for why these lawsuits are happening against realtors?
Well, I've told you guys that what I mean, it's the real reason is a money grab. The actual, because and I'm not a lawyer, but from a legal standpoint, you guys have had to offer $1. You guys, the sellers have chosen to offer more than $1. You guys have had to offer $1, and I'm going to get into the email that NAR sent out as well last night about they said, I'll go ahead and do it now. They said, and I'm paraphrasing, that there's been some mischaracterizations in the media. NAR has never set the standard at 6%. Pretty much saying that was you guys who did that. Wasn't us. So that was you guys who did the 6%. We've never said that, which is true. They have only said $1 is all that they had to pay the buyer's agent plus whatever they're paying you guys, which is technically true. So how did they get sued for $4.4 billion? Them and all the brokerages? I don't know. I don't know how that wasn't. You can sue for whatever you want to sue for, but I don't know how they didn't have a defense of, look, we only made them do $1. They've chose to give more than that. The only thing we demand is $1. It's the only thing you had to do to put it on our MLS is $1. So how do I answer them? Well, first of all, nothing takes place of any of this until the middle of July. So if they want to sell their house now or buy their house now or whatever, then it is what it is. It is what it has been for all this time. As far as the NAR suit, yes, they used to mandate that you had to give $1. That's what I would explain. You had to offer at least $1. Of course, nobody offers $1 because you want to actually sell. And this is me talking to the client. Nobody offers $1 because you have to actually sell the property, and nobody's going to show it for $1. So you had to offer $1 before. Now you don't have to offer $1. But if we're going to compete out there in the market, you want some offers. You want realtors to show it. Then you're going to offer them a percentage. And here's what's standard. Here's what's been standard in the industry. Here's what you have to do to compete. I'll show you some other properties in your neighborhood that's been for sale and what they've offered, that kind of thing, and how quickly they sold. That's what I would do. I would come prepared for that now. I would come with some sold sheets from MLS and some that aren't sold, what they're offering, how long they've been on the market. This one's been on the market 144 days because they're offering 1%. This one sold in 32 days. They were offering 2.5%. This one sold in 34 days. They're offering 3%. So kind of get that across to them. And offering an extra 0.5% on a $400,000 house is $2,000. But if we get it in front of so many more people, what do you think? You think we'll get more money? Of course we will. The difference between offering, well, not only that. So I like to give an analogy of putting my car for sale in my yard versus putting it for sale on Auto Trader. How many more people which way am I going to get more money? Obviously putting on Auto Trader, I'm going to get a lot more people looking at it, and it stands to reason. Logic tells me I'm going to get more money. But this is not even that. This is if people were avoiding bringing their customers to my neighborhood to see my car because they're not going to get paid for it. So, the people actually will avoid your $1 offer or your $0 offer. That's kind of the idea to get across to them. So I hope that answers your question, Angie. That's what I would tell them. You used to have to offer $1. Nobody did because they wanted people to look at their house. Now you don't have to offer that $1.
But that's not, yeah, I get that part of what you're saying. That's not exactly what I was asking now. What would you explain as being the reason for this? Is the reason why the lawsuit started because consumers were feeling deceived by us realtors and big brokerages and felt like they're being forced into paying buyer agent commissions when the real reality is they were never forced, but they felt misled? Is that the reason for the start of these lawsuits? Or what was the real reason for a group of people getting together saying they want?
An attorney brought a group of people together. People didn't get together. People didn't meet at the coffee shop and say, hey, I had to pay buyer commission too. Let's start a lawsuit. An attorney brought people together. This was not a consumer movement.
So the attorneys thought this was unethical or illegal?
No, they thought they could make money. I'm just being honest with you. They thought they could make money and they saw an opportunity. It was not a bunch of consumers who felt misled. Did you guys sold, a lot of you guys sold houses before you were in this business. Did you ever feel misled by this? Did you ever feel, you felt that was the way the system worked and that's what you had to do? So they're playing on it that they're blaming NAR and why only the big brokerages? Why only the $2 billion a year brokerages? Because that's where the money is. It wasn't about, nobody's mad that you guys have been taking advantage of these consumers at FRI or at ABC Brokerage or anywhere else, only if you were with Keller Williams. No, you guys haven't been taking advantage of anyone, but they have deep pockets. And fortunately, FRI does not have deep enough pockets We don't do 2 billion a year. So they didn't include us. So they went after deep pockets. It has nothing to do with actual, this whole thing has nothing to do with actual real estate. It has nothing to do with anyone taking advantage of anyone. It just is. You want to talk about taking advantage of people, wait till all of these people just come off Zillow straight to you because they can't get a buyer's agent. And when you're there representing your own home or your best friend's house or your client for 20 years house, who are you going to do a better job for? The schlub off the street or your best friend, your cousin, your mom, your 20-year client? That's real life. And then who do you think is going to get sued the first time the kitchen sink leaks 6 months later, and you should have told us because there's a wet spot already on there, and you guys knew about it, but this is your cousin's house, or it's your house or whatever, and they weren't represented. I don't know if I can answer that question, Angie, other than to tell you that this was not a consumer movement, in my opinion. So I really don't know how it started. And neither do you, or some people know. The attorneys know how it started.
Okay, thanks.
They made, just so you know, they made a third of whatever these settlements have been. Yes, Ida, exactly right. They're specialized in this area, and they go around just like the Camp Lejeune water. They go around and raise them. Marcus.
Sorry, I was taking off the mute button. All right, so one question, and then sort of a statement following up what you were talking about. So on the actual brokerage agreement, just a question, location, right? In the past, because it really 100% wasn't necessary because we knew the commission, and if we went to a certain location, we knew they were pretty much our client. In this new world where it says location, I was thinking to be more broad. For example, what if I were to put a county? So it's very simple. If they hop over to, out of the 3 zip codes you have here, for example, or 4, it's covered. Be very broad. And location, Orange County. Just an example.
I would be more broad than that. What if they want to go to, those of you guys who know the Orlando area, what if they say Hunters Creek?
Oh, when I said broad, I was just giving it as an example. Obviously, broad.
No, yeah, I mean
every county in the area.
I would say Central Florida. I mean, I don't know, even where
Florida, U.S.,
North Florida, South Florida, Florida, in the United States. Yes, we used to use this, Marcus. If you had ever heard me do the buyer brokerage agreement, and you guys will recognize this, you use that section as a sales tool. Like, I've been listening to you. Here's where you guys want to live. You want to live in these, and when I show you the one that I've prepared, the one I sent you guys as an attachment, which I think you all got this time. When I sent you guys that attachment, I put on there a couple of zip codes. Okay, and it's not going to be, when you show that they said in writing, look, we've been looking at the downtown area, but now we want to move out toward the suburbs. When they tell you that in writing, because they are going to move, they're going to move where they want to be when they realize what the prices are and what they can get for the money. And so, they always have. They've always gone from a 5.3 in one area to a 4.2 somewhere else because it's more affordable, or better house or whatever. They've always moved. If they can't get out of a buyer brokerage agreement because of that, if they've asked you to find them something somewhere else, you can't. They've gone forward with the agreement. If they've closed on a house, then they've agreed to everything else. That's not going to stop you from getting paid a technicality.
All right, awesome. So second part of the question, same thing with the form. So we know essentially what we decide to put on this form as far as commission, and they're being offered more. We find out later we can't change it. We could only get the max of what we put on this document. So obviously it would make sense to do the same thing. Let's go 3%, and whatever it is, we're going to take or less, blah, blah, blah. But we can't put or less on the document. It has to be a specific number, right? So we can't have sort of go ahead.
It has to be a specific number, and you can let them out of it later. So just so you guys know, they're offering me 2.5%.
So that was part of my question. So I can tell them that we were talking so much about coverage and documenting. may have a client that say, okay, you're saying that, but the document says 3. So we can't put in this document on understanding of 3 or less, or obviously it has to be a number. But secondly, can we have a backup document, an addendum later that says, okay, I changed that to 2.5. So I could verbally tell them it will be changed. It's going to be verbal because I can't show them the
You
documentation.
could put in additional terms. I will, the broker will accept whatever's offered by the other party.
On a separate documentation.
You can put that on that document. You can put that in additional terms. Say broker lists 3%, but we'll take whatever's offered. If that's what you want to do, limit yourself to whatever they offer. You can do that. But either side can change that in writing. You can amend this document. It doesn't have to be. It can be just in writing. Look, Marcus, I know your family signed for 3%. The seller's offering me 2.5%. I'll accept that.
Okay. All right, so that's my question on the document, and just sort of a follow-up of the conversation you guys had earlier about attorneys. So just to back up your statement, the attorneys made that money. The sellers, from what I understand, it makes sense. Class actions, they make pennies. It's like $20-something is the number I hear out there. So the sellers did not benefit. It was a class action, like class action lawyers do. They normally look for something easy targets. This was an easy target. What I don't understand is, as you said, how did NAR lose this? Because there was nothing in the lawsuit that we should have lost. There was no standard. There was no document that says 6% or that you had to do anything. They always had options, always. So how we lost this, it makes no sense. But to make it worse is the day they gave out the letter Friday, why some Friday till now, they haven't had any type of communication to the media to dispute it, to put another point of view, put someone out there. The same way they put out a letter, why aren't they doing the same type of concept to say, hey, this is in defense of what's going on now? We haven't seen anything. Is there a way for, from the brokerage side, so we'd say something, it's not going to go far, but a bunch of brokerages reach up to them because someone should stop the bleeding. It's been 5-6 days and it just keeps on bleeding every day in the news and media. Not one representative from NAR or anybody is out there in the news, even locally. Let's get on the news and combat the message, because it is going to poison minds. And why NAR hasn't prepared for that? Why didn't they, in anticipation, we know it's going to happen, let's have a backup plan and be ready to go at it?
I can't answer for NAR. I can't answer that question. I can tell you that I haven't been happy with what they've put out. It seems like a lot of CYA stuff and not actual help to a lot of people who have a lot of questions. So hopefully the agents out there, their brokers are having meetings like this where they're, talking to them about how things are going to change and how they're not going to change, some of them. So I think it's important to, they tried to bury it on a Friday afternoon in the news cycle, and it still got out, and maybe even worse because people, Channel 2 and everybody else has got their own reporters out there who know nothing about what's going on and how the market works, and they're running with this story that they're running with the plaintiff side of the story that realtors have been shoving 6% down their throat all this time. And
what happened to verifying stories? Why didn't anybody, if NAR's not going to do it, we have to. Anybody verify one of those stories, it's completely wrong. They always talk about they verify the story before they talk about it. Everything they're saying is wrong. Every single thing they're saying. But the point is, no one is out there doing a counter argument.
We're in the internet age of news, and everyone. This is a story that everyone can relate to, because everyone's bought or sold a house. And so they're getting lots of clicks. And so they're going to put the most salacious headlines out there they can. Marcus, as far as going back and verifying news and stuff, if you can travel back to 1964, the last time that was done, and make it keep going, I don't know. So I mean, we're going to have to move on. Marcus, I'm sorry. I don't know why NAR's doing what they're doing. They're not doing much of anything. I think what they did is a little bit indefensible in that they didn't fight this. You can say they would have been sued for, they could have lost more money, but they would be better off going bankrupt and not agreeing to all this stuff than agreeing to this and throwing their members under the bus. So that's my opinion. That is not official opinion of FRI. That's my opinion, but you asked for it, and so you got it. Carolina.
Good morning. Did the form change, or is this the same form?
Nothing's changed yet. Absolutely nothing has changed yet. Everything that's been talked about, just like we've been talking about it for months since this thing started, everything's been talked about right now is just conceptual. The settlement that they made to agree to all this stuff has not even been approved by a judge or the DOJ yet. So
I always do buyer broker agreement, so I keep doing it.
well, you are
Much-
fantastic. You
That's-
have been doing it right already. Those you guys, this is going to, people worried about
It's
the
too
changes.
much.
If you've already been doing it right, this is going to benefit you. It's not guys, it's not going to make the biggest difference in the world. You are just like everyone else, just like the news does. Other people you're seeing on social media are making a huge deal, getting clicks, getting likes, getting subscribers to all their YouTube channels and all that stuff. They're taking advantage of it. It is not the biggest deal in the world, but we're going to deal with it and we're going to handle it and we're going to come out on top. It is like Paul said from Samaritan the other day. It's a shakeup in the industry, and if you didn't like your position before, figure this out and you'll like your position better, right?
We'll get paid.
Some people, he was comparing it to lenders during when Dodd-Frank came out in 2010. And a lot of lenders dropped off. A lot of lenders got scared and got out of the business. And those who did not have done fantastic. So, and now the getting's good and everybody and their brother's a lender again. But that's what happened with real estate before, and it's what'll happen again. Tammy. Your mute's on, Tammy.
I couldn't find my button because I'm on my phone. So is that part of the agreement that big of a deal? Like, would you draw that much attention, or would you just kind of like say it and write it and then whenever the commission comes out, I don't even know that I'd say anything. I would just accept whatever is on there. I mean, is that wrong thinking
What do you mean?
regarding the commission?
What do you mean
Like,
by accept whatever's on there?
oh, whatever is on the, whatever they are offering to pay that you accept, unless it's like super low and you are gonna want to get like closing costs from the seller to maybe cover that part of the commission. But if they're offering 2.5% or 3% or something that is acceptable to you without wanting to go to your buyer, would you even make a big deal out of that?
No,
You know,
but
even though you
no, but
put
you need to let your
3% down. Yeah,
No, but these buyer brokerage agreements are it's always been something we've done as a tool to secure a client, but now it's going to be mandatory and necessary, and so they are going to have questions about, well, 3%. What if you don't get 3%?
mhm.
Right, and so
But
you're going to
why
have to let
they
them,
would have
you're
had
going to have to
they
let
would have
them
had
off
those
the hook.
questions previously though, right? I mean,
They never asked
what
that
would have,
before. They never
well,
asked
why
that
would
before. They
they
didn't
may
pay
not
attention
ask
to
it
it before.
now because they may not be educated either now.
Right. Well, part of the biggest thing about the buyer brokerage agreement is educating them. But one of the things you're going to tell them is this is the percent that I'm due at closing,
Okay.
just so you know, because you might have to pay it. That's
Okay.
the thing, Tammy. They're not all going to offer 2%, 2.5%, 3%. They're going to
Yeah.
offer a lot of them now. And I'll tell you the difference. So they had to offer $1 before and they don't now. So it's $1 difference, right? But in reality, all of the news stories, all of this stuff has made sellers very aware of this, and they don't think that they need to pay. They're saying, oh, they've been taking advantage of us. They're believing this and saying they've been taking advantage of us. We never needed to offer buyers, brokers anything. And so now they're going to talk to you about that when you go to listing agreements. In fact, between now and July, you're going to have to tell them, well, that's not even in effect yet. You know,
Right.
that hasn't, nothing's taken place yet. And we still have to offer the buyer's broker something now. But I don't think it's not going to completely cut out when July comes around and you have a conversation with them, because we're going to have the conversation that Angie and I talked about before. So you used to have to offer them $1. Now you don't. That's the only difference. If you still want buyers, you're going to need agents to bring them, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to put that, and you're going to put, you can ask for more in your listing agreement for you and not offer anything to the buyer side, and then later on negotiate with the buyer side. I think that's what's going to happen quite a bit. You're going to go in at 4% listing, and that just covers me. And if we need to negotiate with the buyer side, we will. Right. And so when Natalie brings you a contract, she's going to put in there, 2.5% for me or 3% for me. And you're going to have to go back to your seller and say, I was going to do 4, but since Natalie's getting 3, I'll take 3, if you like this deal, so it's just going to be negotiation stuff all the way through. But to answer your question about that, yes, you're just going to have to let the buyer off the hook and say, I know, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, I know we agreed to 3%. Angie's only offering me 2% on her listing, or 2.5% on her listing. I'll accept that as payment. Okay.
That's why I said I wanted to start mine at 4 now. my buyer's agreement at 4.
Well, there, you said that you're gonna start your
Settled
buyers
for
at 4. Some people are gonna start listings at 4 just for
Yeah.
them,
Both, yeah, right?
you know, or that's pretty much what you guys have done before. 4 for 4 if it's just me, and 6 if I got to share it with somebody. You know, you guys have been doing that for years, a lot of you, variable commission. So so I hope that answers your question, Tammy. Yes, you can. They're gonna ask you, does this cover, Tammy, you're only getting, you know, this is going to cover me with you, right? And even if I don't ask that, you need to let me know. Look, they're only offering me 2%, and we've got an agreement for 3. You know, why don't you? You guys are going to have to do something. I'm going to ask for a little bit them to cover. I'm going to ask them to cover what you owe me in the contract. Okay, sure. Right? Please do. I don't want to pay you. Okay, that way it'll be covered in my loan or whatever, right? As a seller concession. Mary Lou. Mary, you're on mute if you're trying to talk. Christina. I don't know if you're trying to talk, Christina. You're on mute if you are.
Okay, I got you. I'm sorry. I'm an
Okay.
idiot. Okay. Um, so I was reminded of the DOJ situation by Jay Thompson this morning. He used to work for Zillow. Now he blogs, and I don't know what else he does, but he former Zillow employee. A lot of us on here probably know, and he posted in one of these groups one of his articles or a blog, and just mentions the DOJ situation. And so, you know, basically the gist of what he was saying is the DOJ is likely to write, and I may phrase this wrong, but a letter of intent and seek to, and I know this is like not determined yet, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it. Basically, that the DOJ may push to eliminate the seller's ability to pay buyers' commissions at all. So the whole thing, and I'm not a tinfoil hat kind of a person. I'm not an overly political person, but I'm just like, it feels really like an attack on the industry. And I'm not trying to catastrophize and make everybody feel bad. I don't want that, but it's just, and that's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. But I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the DOJ situation? Are you hearing anything like this? Do you think that this is the eventual trajectory where they're trying to eliminate sellers' ability to offer compensation whatsoever?
I would think that would be politically unwise of them to do. Who is that hurting?
I mean, everybody.
Who is this? If I were a political person, who would I say that's hurting? If I wanted to score political points, if I wanted to score political points against this administration and DOJ, who would I say that's hurting?
The consumer,
What kind of consumer?
the buyer, the low income buyer.
Rich people?
No, the poor, middle class, regular people.
First time home buyers, people trying to live the American dream. I can write a speech for it, and I'm not even a political person.
But that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, is this like an election stunt right now? Because it's like,
that would be a terrible election stunt. It's the opposite of an election stunt. It would be terrible.
Well, they're moving all this forward. They're moving all this forward. What I really want to know, and I'd love to see from now, I want to know who these judges are. I want to know who, who's supporting this. You know,
Christine,
I do want to know.
Let's figure that out. We'll cross that bridge if we come to it. I think there might be a constitutional problem with saying somebody can't pay something for someone else too.
Oh, right.
So that doesn't seem likely. I think that's a little bit alarmist. I've heard it a couple other places. I think it's a little alarmist. You know, it might come to fruition, but I think it's a little alarmist right now to say they can't. That's ridiculous. Can they buy them a roof? Can they? What else can they not do? Who's to say how a seller can spend their? It doesn't seem very free to me. So I don't think it's going to come to pass. But I don't know. You know, stranger things have happened than people making bad decisions. But that's something that I don't know. I don't know.
I know it's not determined. I just was curious what your thoughts are. My other thought is like, what is everybody's? I mean, I guess this is another unanswered thing, because right now, where does this leave veterans? Because veterans like can't pay our commission, right?
Boy, that doesn't sound like very good politics either. So I don't know. I really
Okay.
don't think that's happening. Let's cross that bridge when we come to it. I have heard that. Some of you guys have done it. Somebody brought it up the other day. I have
Oh,
heard that,
but we
but
can't,
I
can we have a veteran sign a buyer? Because right now I can't have them pay the transaction fee. They can't pay that fee. So as I understand it, like I don't think, can I put a buyer broker agreement in front of a veteran and basically they can't pay me anything at closing, right? As I understand it. I mean, somebody educate me if I'm incorrect there.
No, you tell them you absolutely put one in front. It's going to be required. So
Right,
it's not
but
an
they,
FRI
right, not
thing.
the form. The form, yes, but in terms of them paying my commission, they can't,
Well, no,
I
you'll
don't
have to
think.
put you maybe you have to put something in. This is all going to change, Christina. This is all good. We're
I
going to
know,
get a
I know.
different form. We're going to, so just so you guys know, we're going to have our own form. This one has the
Okay.
broker signing all of your buyer brokerage agreements. That's never happened. That's not going to happen at FRI. We do too much business for that. You guys have too many buyers for that. So we're not going to be doing that. Carissa can't be chained to her desk signing forms all day. So
Also, Ryan,
we're going to change that.
Yeah.
Yes.
the VA buyers, like I had one recently submit me an offer, and the agent submitted a commission form, a commission agreement with the offer. So the VA buyer was not paying the commission. They were asking the seller to pay more commission with the offer. So that's the way that we'll probably have to
Well,
be
that's
doing it
the only way it's going to work. Yeah, because the buyers can't.
as
So
of now. Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna. That's yeah. That's
But when
the
you
only way
have
it can
that
work.
buyer's agreement signed in advance with your client, they know that's coming and they know that's going to be a part of their offer, and you're disclosing it. Hey, this is how much I need to make. So I'm going to put this commission agreement in with your offer so that I can
Yeah,
get paid.
aware of all that. I totally get that. Point I'm making is just like if there's somebody that there's no offer of compensation, people are going to be
Take
left
it to a different house.
unrepresented.
Take them to a different house. That's until they tell us that's a violation of some kind of ethics. Take them to a different house. Can't buy that one.
Ryan, you're
Yes.
saying about you're saying about the form, something like we're not going to do, and I missed that, it broke up. What are we not doing? You're saying
We're going
FRI is going to generate.
We're going to have our own. We're going to have our own form. We're going to have our own form that's based roughly on this one. That's our plan. Okay. So a lot of the things we're going to go over today will be a little bit different, but we're going to have our own form that's not based on this. That is based on this, but not the same. Gina.
Hi, Ryan. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
I have a question about the form you sent. I realize it'll change, and I wasn't sure if this was just a sample or not, but I was concerned with the line where you put retainer $1,000. Is that going to be something FRI is requiring us to collect, or was that just an example?
That's an example, but we're considering it.
Okay.
I think it's for
So-
you guys. I think it's good for you guys to do it and make it it's non-refundable and make it credit toward closing, whatever you want to credit toward your commission at closing, obviously.
Okay, so if we do go that direction, I think
if you do go that direction, you
little more.
absolutely can go that direction, and you should. And they'll send
Well, I
us.
guess I'm just a little
we'll give it to
concerned
you.
with, like, so I collect the $1,000. Do I send it to you, or is it
Oh,
going
no,
to?
yeah, you don't collect anything. It's made out to FRI.
Correct. Right. Okay. So it would go to FRI,
Absolutely.
and then it says non-refundable. So
Yes,
unless
it'll
they're
be
compensated.
released to you. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I do find that a little worrisome to meet a complete stranger off the side of this on the street, and I have to ask them for $1,000 check, and they don't even know who I am. Or
Well, and that's just right now. It's an option. We're not enforcing that, but or it's not a rule.
right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was
it's an idea for you guys, but
Yeah.
let's see where this goes first. If you start seeing, and this is your money, so it's up to you. If you start seeing, nobody offering anything, and you're going to have to collect from the contract every time. So the rule that we had before about you guys asking for, part of the problem too is that NAR had the rule where you could not ask for anything beyond MLS offering compensation. So if somebody was offering, if Angie was offering $1,000 to a buyer's agent, I couldn't ask her for 3%. I couldn't put that in my contract. So now I can. So I can put it in the contract. I can send a separate commission agreement. I can do whatever. So that's that.
Okay.
But no, we're not. It's not mandatory. Well, I'm going to go through that agreement with you. It's not mandatory. It is just an idea for, because you guys, you're not going to be wanting to waste your time and actually have a sale and not have some kind of money.
Right.
Jerry.
Hey, Ryan, first off, I'm looking at this in positive way, and that's how I'm going to go ahead and present it to my buyers. The question that I have is basically, are the buyer's agent and the listing agent have to be in separate offices? That's one question.
No. No, why
Okay.
would that be?
They can be in the same office.
Absolutely. Yes. It can be the same person.
Okay, so they can be the same person. The second
Oh,
is, my understanding is it has to be signed, the buyer's agreement, before they even go out and see a home.
I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
You don't
I
know
mean,
that answer. Okay.
yeah.
Those
I
were
don't,
my
but probably, since they say it's going to be mandatory, I don't know what mandatory means. I mean, I
Yeah.
know what mandatory means, but I don't
It's
know how
kind
they're
of
going
great
to,
for me
what
too.
they're going to call, how they're going to interpret mandatory for this. It would be a matter of timing. Yes, before I show you a home. I mean, how do you make it mandatory, and do I have to, or is it like a pre-approvals mandatory where sometimes it is and sometimes the listing agent doesn't ask for it, you tell them you have it, and hopefully you do. But sometimes they ask for it, sometimes they don't before they show it, and it's really up to I mean, it's good business, but it's up to the seller, it's up to the agent, it's up to whatever. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to request that before you look at my listing. I don't know. I just don't know.
Okay, so if I list a home, then I can sell the home, or Steve can sell the home. He can be the buyer's agent, represent the
Yeah,
buyer's
Of
agent.
course. Yeah.
Okay,
That
perfect.
doesn't
Thanks.
change at all. Hey, guys, you know, in reality, it changed by $1.
Okay.
We've talked about this the whole time. They used to have to offer $1 and now they don't. So let's see how it does. And guys, this is really, today's conversation is no different from it so far. It's been no different than the one at 1 o'clock the other day. But it is the idea is to go over the buyer brokerage agreement, but it is still not, a lot of it's not determined. Nothing's been determined since Monday. And I can't wait to see what kind of forms and stuff how they change the forms and all that stuff. The listing agreement definitely is going to have to change. It says you can't even put it on the MLS if you don't offer compensation. It's definitely going to have to change. The buyer's broker agreement's probably going to change. And ours, we certainly aren't going to use this exact one. But for now, nothing has changed yet. And I'm interested to see, but that's what, kind of to get an idea. That's why I want to talk to the builder who has never had to offer compensation unless they want to put on MLS. And look, they have the audacity to offer you nothing, 1% or $1 or whatever. And they're not. And the reason is because they want your clients, just like everybody's going to want to. Tariq.
Hey Ryan, good stuff, man. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
I can, buddy. Perfect.
Hey, so I had a question. I do a lot of referrals, send out referrals to other buyers for my buyer's agent, for my buyers. But is that going to change anything with all these changes that are going on, like the way I approach sending out my referrals?
Referrals?
Yeah, referral
I
agreements.
would
Like
talk to whoever, it doesn't change anything legally, but I would talk to whoever you're sending these referrals to and make sure they're going to get paid. Because you only get paid if they get paid. You get a percentage of what they get paid. So if they're going to get taken advantage of, you're getting taken advantage of to just a slightly smaller extent.
Oh, I got you. Because I usually charge between 30 to 35%. I send a referral out. Now with all these changes, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not getting, I'm only getting 1%, and you'll be taking 30% of my 1% or something like that."
Then you find somebody who's not an idiot.
Okay.
Somebody who can still get paid, because you've got to still get paid. You guys have got to find a way to still get paid in this market, and it's not going to be hard. It's the same.
Okay.
Same market. You just got to buckle down and do it. And you can't, guys, and we talk about this every time I talk about this buyer brokerage agreement. Timid salespeople have skinny kids. You cannot be timid. Angie, are you timid? No, she is not. I can tell you that. Daryl's not timid.
No, and Tariq, I'll take your referrals, or whoever that was talking, I'll take your referrals and I'll get us 4%.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Angie.
There you go. All right. Well, we've made a match today. Ida.
Hey, good morning. Thank you. So will these changes also apply to the compensation that is being offered for rentals?
Yes. Can't offer you anything for that too. I'm assuming I can't offer you anything for that too. I don't know. That's just my assumption. That's a great question. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm assuming we can't offer compensation to MLS anymore. If
So
they had the same rule before where I had to. What's to stop the landlords from getting together next and starting a thing where they made me pay $50 to rent this place.
Yeah,
So we're suing
then
for $50 billion.
then I gotta write down on the agreement what I will charge the
You do
person
send
that
them
I'm
a
helping.
commission agreement. Send them a commission
Huh?
agreement, and
Same, right?
and
Okay.
you talk about people get more money. That'll be who it is. You should have been doing that the whole time. People, you couldn't though because of MLS rules. But you talk about people getting more money. That'll be people doing tenant representation because I'm not doing this crap for $50 or $200 or whatever. So they're going to go rent your place for $3,500. You're going to give me $300? No, thank you. Tell you what, here's one for $1,500, and you can either pay me or not. All right. David Silverman.
Hey, Ryan, a couple of thoughts. First, the biggest change probably is going to be the seller's attitude towards whether they're going to continue paying buyers or not. But the interesting thing is that the public seems to think that the seller was being forced to pay the buyer's agent, which is the way it appears when you first look at it. But that is actually not what's happening. The seller is not paying the buyer's agent. The buyer is paying the buyer's agent. The seller is just facilitating the transaction by allowing the buyer to finance it. That's it. They're not paying.
And that's what's going to continue to happen. That's a brilliant way to look at it, and that's what's going to continue to happen. And yes, we talked earlier about everybody sensationalizing this for clicks. That's what they do with
right
on the internet, and every story you see on your social media and everything else from all these different news sources. That's what they all do, is sensationalize everything to get clicks, because that's the new newspaper.
I'm with you on all those points. I just think the sellers' attitudes may have changed, and also when buyers see that they may be on the hook, I know it's going to be a shock. My other thing is, do you think our greatest risk is going to be from attorneys in the long term? And I have one more question following up, which is, you said that you were going to be making changes to the buyer's agreement. What do you think? Strengthening? What do you see weaknesses or strengths?
We're going to wait till we see the new buyer's agreement, but strengthening it is going to be one of those things. Make it a little harder to wiggle out of after I've shown you 20 houses. Because
what do you think about
David, the difference between an agent and a great agent is going to be, I'm going to get you. You're not going to. Don't fear. I'm going to get your commission paid. With every offer that I write, I'm going to get your commission paid. Right?
No, I understand. Yeah.
No, I'm telling you. You said the buyers are going to be hesitant. Yes, and when I talk to them, they're going to know. I'm going to tell them, don't worry. I'm going to get your commission paid. Don't worry about that. I'm going to show you the best houses in town. I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to get your commission paid. Don't worry about this nonsense you saw, because I'm going to get your commission paid. And so, I mean, I get what you're saying, Dave, but that's the attitude. That's what's going to make or break you in this market. And it's easy. Just send the commission agreement. Some of it's going to be really easy. Some of it, David, they're going to say, yeah, we're paying 3%.
No, I'm not. I'm just talking about longer term. Do you think attorneys are going to be a great risk? That because the whole realtor market, the whole corporation essence was that both parties, the seller's agent and the buyer's agent, were both working towards this transaction, and only one party was facilitating, which was the seller, but the buyer was still paying it. That whole system now has ended. I mean, this is now all unofficial. I mean, somebody can say, well, we'll give you 10 grand, we'll give you 5 grand, we'll give you 15 grand. If it's a seller's market, we give you nothing. I mean, we'll give you a gift card.
Okay. So if it comes down to, well, yeah, that's always been the case. They could have given you $1 before. But yeah, it comes down to a lot of things. If it is somehow outlawed for the seller to pay the buyer's agent, then that's going to be a whole different story. But I can't see how that ever happens. But right now it's just a $1 difference, David. They could have offered $1 before, but they all chose to offer 2.5 or 3%. Yes, you're absolutely right, and that is my my point here also is that yes, they have been watching the news, and they think now that they don't have to, their attitudes have changed, or I'm sure they have changed. But they need to be, that's where you tell them, look, the only difference is we had to offer them $1 before, but if we want to be competitive, we're going to have to put houses we're going to have to offer the buyer's agent. Otherwise, anyone with an agent's not going to look at this.
The interesting thing is that people going to see open houses. That's an immediate change. I mean, not immediate, 4 months, but I mean, apparently it's going to be illegal to show an open house without a signed form of some kind.
What do you mean? Oh, to
mean,
show an open house to somebody?
Yeah.
I don't. Let's see where that goes. That's where this gets all fuzzy. Let's see where this goes. I want to see what changes they made by our brokerage agreement. I want to see the changes they, the mandatory quote unquote. I want to see what that looks like.
Plus, the judge still has to approve it. There's also that.
Yeah, judge has to approve it. DOJ is going to weigh in on it, etc. It's too early to know any of that. Christina.
So I just wanted to reverse course a little bit and share hopefully some positivity. So my parents owned a flat fee brokerage in like 80s, 90s called Help You Sell. I mean, now there's like Assist to Sell and all of that, but we owned one of the first ones called Help You Sell, and we had it in College Park, and it was on Edgewater Drive. And when all of this stuff, when the ruling, the settlement proposal came out, my mom texted me and she's like, don't worry, this is they've always had options. So that's kind of the main thing. Like I made a little video, and that was, they've always had these options: offer $1, offer nothing, have a flat fee brokerage. And ultimately, they didn't continue with that model because consumers prefer the full service model. So, the settlement, the bad publicity, I'm not loving any of that, but it made me feel a little bit better for whatever reason, for her to remind me that. I mean, that is an option they've always had. And, largely the consumer chooses the full service model and chooses to offer the incentives to the buyer's agent because that is what makes them the most money. Another thing that I mentioned in my video on social media is, years ago, there was a guy that owned, for sale by owner, and he hired, I think it was like a Coldwell Banker agent, paid the 6%. He owned the for sale by owner.com website. So I don't know, for whoever needs to hear that, I think that made me feel a little bit better.
I appreciate that. All right, Akash is the last question, then we're going to get to the buyer brokerage agreement.
Hey there, maybe jumping the gun here, and sorry I joined up a little bit late. Noticed the terminology that was used around the buyer brokerage agreement was mandatory. How is it like for investors that are procuring properties for investment purposes for themselves, meaning, not.
But I absolutely cannot answer that yet. I want to know what their mandatory looks like. They're throwing the word mandatory. I want to know what that looks like. So I really can't answer that question yet. But I just can't answer that question until I know what their actual mandatory means. So I don't know. Before, what the mandatory means, the time, do I have to submit that with a contract? That might be the case. That I have to submit it with a contract. I don't know.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Or is it going to be mandatory like the data entry sheet is mandatory? And I can't see a lot of your faces now because my screen just came up, but I'm sure there's a lot of blushing going on because a lot of times you guys don't have buyer data entry sheets, or not buyer, but data entry sheets for your listings. But that's mandatory. So actually I would love to see your faces right now. Okay. Oh, no, let me go back to this. So I just messed it. Okay, no, I didn't. Okay, so I put in this thing. I started a transaction called Buyer Family. Okay, I'm working with buyers called Bob Buyer, Maria Buyer. They're the Buyer Family, which is very convenient. That is the name of this transaction. Now, when I get them, I'm going to cover this later, but when I get them under contract, I'm going to change the name of this to 123 Oak Street. Please don't do that, but whatever their actual address is that they're buying, or that they're buying, and do that. Once you get an accepted contract, you can change it here. You click this check mark and it'll change that. Okay. All right. So I'm dealing with a Buyer Family. I have an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement with them. You guys saw that. So there's a template, by the way, when you start this, you start a new transaction. There's a template that comes with this. And I put it in there. I've got the buyer brokerage agreement added to that template now, along with all the contracts and everything else you'll need. Well, not all the contracts, the as is, etc. You guys know, we had someone have to work with a non as is and had a hard time getting out of it. I don't even know if they got out of it, but just try to stick with the as is. Let's go with this. Bob Buyer, Maria Buyer. They're my buyers, Florida Realty Investments. It starts today. I did this one for 6 months. You can do whatever you want. Single family residential. I did Orlando with the following zip codes, which are all contiguous around downtown Orlando area. Price range 450 to 550. They've been pre-approved with ABC Mortgage. 30-year fixed up to 550. Whatever you want to put in here, just make sure it's right. The buyer, and this is where, guys, this is where you use this as a sales thing. I've talked to this family. They prefer a large backyard. That's important to them because of their kids and the A-rated school district, particularly for elementary school or whatever ages whatever they've talked about. Don't make something up. It's whatever they've told you, right? Broker obligations. These are all the things a broker will do. Be able to talk about these. Obviously, professional knowledge and skills, assist buyer in determining buyer's financial capabilities, which we've already worked with a lender on that. Discuss property requirements, assist buyer in locating and viewing suitable properties, assist buyer to contract for property, monitor deadlines, and close any resulting transaction. Guys, are these things important for buyers? How often would buyers do things right if it weren't for you? Think about these things and be able to educate your buyer on this. Know some of these. When you go over this part of the contract, know when their inspection is due. Do they know, even after you let them look at the as is, are they going to understand about weekends? Do they count are we using calendar days or business days? Do weekends count? I signed a contract on Wednesday. Day 1 is Thursday. Day 2 is Friday. Day 3 is Saturday. When is my escrow due? Was it due on Friday? Did I just breach? Right? No, we know it's due Monday, but they don't know that. What about my inspection period runs out on a weekend? Does a weekend count? I've got 5 days inspection period. That means 5 business days, right? No, it doesn't. So make sure they understand all the things that you're doing. Build your value, because it is dead true. Monitoring these deadlines, very important. Closing any resulting transaction, of course. Contract for the property. Yeah, they make it to where realtors can fill in contracts. Do you think buyers can fill those in? You think buyers should trust the listing agent to fill it in for them? The listing agent who, like we talked about earlier, is representing their best friend or themselves or their cousin or their mother or a client for 20 years. Who are they going to be looking out for? Cooperate with real estate licensees, working with the seller, if any, to affect a transaction. Buyer understands that even if broker is compensated by a seller or real estate licensee who is working with sellers, such compensation does not compromise broker's duty to buyer. So, and this part won't change. Even if they are compensated by someone else, still doesn't compromise my duties to you. Other buyers. Buyer understands that broker may work with prospective buyers who want to acquire the same property. Again, this doesn't happen very often, but it has happened with you guys. If broker submits offers by competing buyers, broker will notify buyer that a competing offer has been made, but will not disclose any of the offer's material terms or conditions. Buyer agrees that broker may make competing buyer aware of the existence of any offer other buyer makes, so long as broker does not reveal any material terms or condition of the offer without buyer's prior written consent. And I would do the same for you. I would not, if I've got my other buyer, I won't let them know what you guys are offering or what incentives you guys are offering the seller or what you guys are doing. Fair housing. Broker adheres to the principles expressed of fair housing, of course. Will not participate in anything unlawfully discriminates, of course. Service providers. Broker does not warrant or guarantee products or services provided by any third party whom broker, at buyer's request, refers or recommends to buyer in connection with property acquisition. Just as a matter of normal business, give them 3 to choose from and tell them they can Google anybody else they want. And I'm talking about inspectors. I'm talking about vendors, AC repair guys to come out and give you the quote on AC repair, anything like that. Anytime you need a roof repair or anything, give them 3 and let them choose and tell them they can Google some more if they want. Buyer's obligations. Buyer agrees to cooperate with broker in accomplishing the objectives of this agreement, including conducting all negotiations and efforts to locate suitable property only through broker, and referring to broker all inquiries of any kind from real estate licensees, property owners, or any other source. Meaning if they run into something, they're going to run it to you. If buyer contacts or is contacted by a seller or a real estate licensee who is working with a seller or views a property unaccompanied by broker, buyer will at first opportunity advise the seller or real estate licensee that buyer is working with and represented exclusively by a broker. Providing broker with accurate personal and financial information requested by broker in connection with ensuring buyer's ability to acquire a property. Buyer authorizes broker to run a credit check and verify buyer's credit information. We don't do that, but it's good that they're authorizing us to make sure we're not wasting our time, right? So that's why we have them pre-qualified or pre-approved. Being available to meet with broker at reasonable times for consultations and to view properties. That's their obligation, is to, they're going to want to if they want to buy something. Indemnifying and holding broker harmless from and against all losses, damages, costs, and expenses of any kind, including attorney's fees, and from liability to any person that broker incurs because of acting on buyer's behalf. That covers all kinds of stuff. The money that they're going to lose if they back out of a contract after, they can't come after you if they got an inspection, didn't like it, and didn't buy the property. Whatever the case is, why they breached, they didn't do their mortgage application within 5 days and they lose their deposit. They weren't able to close at the last minute because they bought a car or they bought furniture at Cane's, and so they can't come after you for the money. Not asking or expecting to restrict the acquisition of property based on, not asking you to break the law. Consulting an appropriate professional for legal, tax, environmental, engineering, foreign reporting requirements, and other specialized advice. This is where your job here is to say, I am not a legal, tax, environmental, engineering, foreign reporting expert. Okay, it's an accounting expert. Upon final execution of this agreement, buyer will pay to broker a non-refundable retainer fee of $1,000 for broker services. Retainer. This fee is not refundable and will or will not be credited to buyer if compensation is earned by broker as specified in this agreement. You can do this or not do this right now, where there's absolutely no, this is an idea for you guys to do to make sure you get paid something for this. That is if things go, I don't think they're going to get to the point to where people aren't offering you compensation, but if they do, then we'll do this. Okay, this is just an idea for you guys to do, not mandatory, of course. Compensation. This is where you do this. You can either do it here if you're not charging the fee, but 3% plus 350. Guys, you should ask for at least this. I mean, and you can settle for less later. That's where Angie was talking about. She's going to put 4% right here. If you're doing a lease, obviously you can do that. If you're doing, if they're going to buy an option, you guys typically don't fill these out because that's not usually what happens. But some of these can be a lease, right? And if they might lease something, then go ahead and put them in here for this. This is where you put that $1,500 we talked about before. Protection period, 90 days. I would not settle for less than that at this point. 90 days after termination date. So let's talk about early termination. Buyer may terminate this agreement at any time by written notice to broker, but will remain responsible for paying broker's compensation if from the early termination date to termination date plus protection period, if applicable, which it is, as we put it here, buyer contracts to acquire property which prior to the early termination date was found by buyer or called to buyer's attention by broker or any other person. So if they found it themselves, or if it was called to their attention by you or anybody else in the world, which everything they looked at would be, right? Somebody brought it to their attention. Broker may terminate, so they'll owe you that money if the deal is still in effect if they buy a property that happened this way, okay? Broker may terminate this agreement at any time by written notice to buyer, in which event buyer will be released from all further obligations under this agreement. So if you terminate the agreement because you're like, I'm not working with this person anymore, then they're released from it. Then they're not going to owe you anything no matter what, even if they bought the property you showed them yesterday. Okay, so you show them a property and they were yelling at the seller and started a fight with the seller, and you're like, oh, these people are crazy, I'm going to terminate this agreement. And then they go back the next week and they buy that property from the seller, you don't get anything. Just throwing a crazy scenario. But if you drop it for any reason, it's probably going to be because they're not really serious about finding a house. Then they don't have any obligations to you, and you can stop working for them. Any unresolvable dispute between buyer and seller will be mediated. If settlement is not reached in mediation, all matter will be okay. So brokerage relationship, broker will act as a transaction broker. Guys, this is just in case you sell them your own listing or you run into somebody else from FRI. Broker will deal honestly and fairly. Broker will account for all funds, will use skill, care, and diligence in the transaction, will disclose all known facts that materially affect the value of the residential property, which are not readily observable to buyer. This means if you see something at the house that was not, first of all, you're going to disclose everything that the seller, that the listing agent disclosed, right? You're going to disclose everything because somebody had a question about this. So you're going to disclose everything that the listing agent disclosed. Plus, if you see something falling down in the house, you're going to tell them about it. Okay. They didn't walk into the garage, but you did, and you saw that there's a big stain on the ceiling. We're gonna talk about that and get that investigated. Okay. We'll present all offers and counter offer. Or if you knew something because you showed it to a different buyer, you showed it to a different buyer and they got an inspection and found out that the plumbing is faulty, you're going to go ahead and tell your people up front. The broker will present all offers and counter offers in a timely manner unless directed otherwise in writing, and will have limited confidentiality with buyer unless waived in writing. Okay. That's transaction broker stuff. Special clauses. This is where you would put anything special. Acknowledge and modifications. Agreement cannot be changed except by written agreement signed by both parties. All right. Any other questions on that? Yes, Carolina.
I do. When can you go to like the very, very top? I think I heard someone say this. Do you put Central Florida on the address? Because
No, and I covered that when we talked about it. You could put Central Florida. I was being dramatic there. You could put Central Florida, but nobody is getting past this all the way to closing and then saying, oh, you didn't, we're in 32824. The house you sold me, so we're not covered by this. No, we discussed this and you chose to do 32824. You moved forward like the agreement was still in place. I represented you all the way through the process. You can't, that's not, I'm not a lawyer, but that's not illegal to get out of the deal. What if they buy, same thing as if they buy for 575. Oh, we're not covered because you put, I would just do 0 to 100 million here, right?
Right.
So there's no reason to do that.
What about the protection period? There was a question about so are you covered if, let's say I'm working with a buyer, but they decide to go with someone else. It's within the 90-day period. I didn't show them that property, but they've seen it with someone else, blah, 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 blah. Are you covered under this agreement? Because I know we've talked about this in the past where buyers
let's clarify that, Carolina. Let's clarify that.
Yes.
They looked at, you never showed them 123 Oak Street.
Right.
Right. But David Silverman ran into them at the mall and he showed them 123 Oak Street while you were under this agreement.
Yes.
Okay. This is where we talked about before. I'll get to that. This is something that was brought to them. This was brought to them by someone else's, brought to their attention by someone else during your period. And so you are absolutely covered. They owe you are over commission and David is not. Now, if David has a signed agreement with them, then that's a whole nother problem that they've gotten themselves into by signing 2 of these. So buyers need to be very educated on this. Guys, this is a grown-up business. These are not children that we're dealing with. These are grown-ups making their own decisions, and they need to know what a legal document is. And if they sign a legal document promising 2 people money, then they've signed a legal document promising 2 people money, and that's their problem. Now, it's not going to be our problem collecting. It's going to be a problem to collect, but that. Carissa is the broker, Yvonne, but we're going to get off of this. We're going to get off of this form before too long. But for now, yes, Carissa's the broker. So not for now, she's the broker. But for now, we're going to have her signing these forms. Okay. And send it to Michaela. Send it to sales at FLA. Michaela will get it signed. Don't send them to Carissa, please. And if you send them for electronic signature, that's great. Send them to sales at FLA, realtyinvestments.com. You guys know Michaela's thing.
Oh, so that changed. So we're not
No,
signing.
there's a place to sign at the bottom for brokers, for the broker to sign. I'll show you all the way to the bottom.
So both will be signing essentially, right? The agent and
Just
the
that one
broker.
thing. She's only going to sign. I put Florida Realty Investment should be Carissa Lawhun right here. I'll go ahead and change that. All right. So it should be Carissa Lawhun. She will sign this, send it to sales@flarealtyinvestments.com. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Oh my gosh. We got a lot of stuff in chat. That's Michaela. Okay. But it is for Carissa's signature. Yes, Anne.
Yes, I have a lot of buyer from out of state, and I have never done this before. So I have somebody coming here very soon. So do I need to apply this ASAP or sometime in the future?
It's not mandatory until July.
Okay,
But I
got
mean,
it.
it's always been a great idea, and I've always taught on it. Every 6 months I go through this with everybody because it's always been a great idea. I see so many of you guys lose so much money because you don't have one of these signed, and they end up working with somebody else because you showed them 20 houses and they bought something from somebody else, and you have no recourse and you're upset about it. And I see it all the time, and I hate to see you guys upset. I hate to see you guys miss out on money. Especially after you've shown them 25 houses, So I've always recommended this form. I think it's great.
Okay,
So
thank you.
try to use it. But at some point, we'll let you know. It'll be mandatory.
Thank you.
Deborah. Deborah, your mute is on. I don't know if you're trying to talk or not. Okay, who else has questions on the buyer brokerage agreement? Tammy.
So like in Anne's situation where somebody's coming from out of town, would you recommend you wait to see them in person so they can kind of meet you, or would you send it to them before they actually arrive?
It's going to be when it's a required form, I mean, it's required.
Mm-hmm.
It's required. I don't know what else to tell you. It's required.
Yeah.
I would do it before they got here. I mean, if you've spoken with them and you know what they want, you can put any here. I mean, I want to go back to this real quickly, but just because you're not going to know things, Tammy, the reason I'm getting to that is you're not going to know things, but like the type of property, location, price range. If you don't know this stuff, just put any. It doesn't have to be exact because, what if they don't use ABC more? What if, they end up using a different mortgage company, or they end up paying a different price range or a different kind of loan? Whatever it is, do they get out of this? Of course not. But you're just saying you don't want to guess wrong at what they're trying to do. So, you can do that, or you can go, if you've talked to them, go into detail about what they want to buy. They're looking for single family or duplex. They're looking for, townhouse. They're looking for whatever. You put whatever they might buy in here, or you can just put any, I guess, to answer that question from before. I would have it done before I show them anything. So I don't know what the rule is going to be when it's mandatory. Is this form also required for commercial? Sam, I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I doubt it. This doesn't really affect commercial, any non-MLS commercial for sure, which is most commercial. So I don't know, but I think you're definitely going to want to always. You already do. You already send in your LOIs and stuff with your commission on it. So I don't think that changes. Just keep doing that. You ask them what the co-broke is, and that's typically what you put on the LOI. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you go back to your buyer and say, hey, they're not paying anything, or they're paying 1%, and I need you guys to pay me 1%. And they say, well, nope, get it all from them. And so you go back with an LOI that's higher than what they were offering you on LoopNet or on the phone. So that's not going to change. Alex.
Yeah, hi. So let's say you have a situation where, out of town folks come during the season to look at properties, but and they tell you, we're probably not going to buy until next season, but we want to start the process. We want to get familiar. We want to look at this, that, and the other. So what do you do? Do you do a 2-year time frame? Do you do 6 months? And then in the remarks, you put that, that the retainer will be applied next year. How do you handle something like that?
I make this for as long as they'll sign it. I mean, if they'll sign one that's a 10-year one, then get them to do it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, that's the lifetime contract. I'm the buyer agent for anything you ever do. Well, whatever they're willing to sign, and they will be, if they say, look, we're looking to buy, sometime by March of next year, then yeah, put them on a 18-month one and start sending them. So, if you want me to send you guys stuff now, it's a little early, but get a feel for the market. You want to start sending you stuff now. You never know, they might buy quickly. When they see the deal.
Right. Or if they come down and take a look at certain properties, but not ready until next season.
Yes, it can be for as long as they'll agree to.
I see. Okay. And as far as this retainer, whatever that amount is, yes. So, I mean, I'm foreseeing there's going to be resistance because, people don't want to.
You don't want to come out of
write a check up front.
They never have. Yeah.
So what are certain things that you would say? Because this would be new to me. Like, what would you tell people?
What would you tell people? The same thing. I mean, attorneys get retainers. I'm going to do all this stuff for you. You guys have got to hit these broker obligations, and the last part about at the very end. But these broker obligations, you guys have got to hit these of what you're going to do for them. You've got to build value now more than ever, right? Because they've been reading this news, and whatever that you got to hit value. You got to hit your value now more than ever. And I'm going back to this top one here about honestly and fairly account for all funds, skill, care, and diligence, all this stuff, but especially the stuff up top.
And if they're not willing to write a check, then you just tell them what you have to go. No matter who you work with, you have to do this anyway, right? Basically.
Well, I mean, don't lie to them. Some people are going to do it without a retainer. But if you want a retainer, if you want a retainer, then you sell them on your services and what you're offering.
But agents cannot show properties until this is done.
Yes.
So no matter who they work with, they have to do it.
Now you can't, Alex. We're going to talk about that. I don't know that for a fact yet. They say it's going to be mandatory.
Okay,
they say it's going to be mandatory. I just want you guys to be ready for it. I still want you to use it now. You might as well get used to it.
Right.
It's a great business. It's a great business model to use. I mean, it's a great business idea.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Procedure to use it. You bet. So we'll see how it is mandatory. It might be mandatory to submit it with offers. It might be mandatory to have it before you step foot in a home. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Marcus.
Question: the values, the conversation pieces that are in this document. This was going to ask, will you guys maybe have some more talking points that maybe we can use, newer realtors can use, besides the ones that are listed here? We're talking about the values, the responsibilities, maybe more of a talking point guideline, suggestion, as opposed to just what's on here, or elaborate on this. I mean, for example, I might not need that, but it's good to know that we have another resource, or especially new realtors coming in.
Yes, and I'm answering your question right now. I am looking something up.
You're gonna tell me it's there.
Oh, well, I'm going to tell you it's there, but I'm going to show it to you.
Just when you were reading that, the thought came to mind. It's like it's there.
Hold on one second. Here we go. 184 things that your realtor should be doing for you.
Awesome.
And this is very light writing. I apologize. But if you just Google, there's one, this is 184. There's one with 300 or something like that. There's one with 86 or something that's from NAR. I've seen all these before. Boy, this is hard to read. I apologize because it's such light writing. Let me go back one. There's 184 things your realtor does for you. Let's see if this looks like it's plagiarized the same list, but it's exactly 184. But let's see if their writing is better. Yeah, it's the exact same list. Make a point with seller for listing presentation. I'm not going to go through 184, but you see all these 184 things. Just Google them and then pick the ones that you like and do all this stuff. Okay.
Actually, no, I'm sure everyone has their sales, technique and pitches ready. This is going to become more prevalent, obviously. So just saying it's good to have.
You guys have been doing this the whole time. I've been talking about this forever. That's how I know there's 184 and there's one with like 301. And I know that NAR does one with 80 something. But this is all, and they're breaking things down to stuff, but this is all true. All these things that is what you have to do. I mean, there's stuff on here like verify the presence of natural gas in the neighborhood, and all this, there's everything, right? Counsel sellers on offers, explain merits and weakness of each offer, all kinds of stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
There's it's not just this, just Google. I'm telling you the answers are out there for you, but Google stuff like that. It's very helpful. Yes, Angie.
Yeah, along those lines, what Marcus is asking and talking about, I found that the best way to get somebody to sign this is after a very thorough buyer's consultation of walking them through the buying process. If anyone's like scared to ask someone to sign this, it's probably because you haven't shared any value of yours yet. And of course, it'd be really crazy to ask someone for $1,000 or to even sign anything if they don't know what you're going to do for them. So I have a slideshow that I've created and modified and just modified again when everything's changed. And that's what we sit down and go through, preferably at the office. We sit down and go through it, or over Zoom or in a coffee shop close to them. We make it very easy for our buyers. Even at the first showing, we'll pull out the iPad and go through the buyer's consultation there, make it easy for them, but still at that first meeting, walking through the buying process. Here's what happens. Here's why we prefer to use an as-is contract. Here's what's going to happen during the inspection. Here's why you may or may not need an appraisal. After closing, what's going to happen. And it walks through all that stuff. And then part of the process, one of the slides is signing the buyer's agreement. Here's the buyer's agreement. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is what you're going to do. Sign here. Let's move forward with finding your right house. And we'll get on the MLS right now and find what you're looking for. So a buyer's presentation, a formal one, sometimes it's a hard thing to get someone to agree to because they just want to go out and look at houses, right? They want the fun part, but it's just like getting them to that pre-approval. It's no fun talking to the mortgage lender. They just want to go out and look at houses, but we know we have to do it. And now more than ever, we're going to have to do that, show our value, get them to sign with us rather than someone else. And only us realtors that are doing that and are able to show our value and have sales skills to get people to sign an agreement with us are going to be the ones to get the buyers, just like it's been in the past with the listings. Only the agents that have the sales skills can sit in there, show their value, and get someone to sign a document saying they're going to pay 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% of their home sale to you as an agent. So this is just taking those sales skills that us listing agents have had to have throughout the year and now applying it to buyer's agent. So you just have to get on the bus, start working on yourself, work on your sales skills, work on your presentation, show people your value, and you'll have no problem at all getting people to sign this. And the people that don't want to sign it, you're going to be very happy that they walked away at that first meeting and you let them go rather than going through the issues of working with someone who's not committed to you also.
Angie, that's absolutely brilliant. And I think that is, Angie's got this thing already figured out. That is the biggest change that's going to come from all of this, is making this form mandatory. And your fight over buyers now isn't going to be, oh, I'm available to show you houses. I'm available to show you houses. I'm just going to go show you houses. Your fight over them is getting signed forms. Yep. That's what the business is going to be about on the buyer side, is getting signed forms, getting signed listing agreements, and getting signed buyer brokerage agreements is what this business is going to be all about. Yeah, that's the biggest change to come out of all of this. You're still going to get compensated at closing. You still are. I do not believe that is going away unless like someone said the DOJ, gets rid of it. I doubt that. But I think that is absolutely where this business is going on the buyer side, is getting who can get the most signed buyer brokerage agreements. I mean, it's not a contest, but it's
and the highest percentage, right?
and at the highest percentage, because if you guys are out there doing it at 2 and Angie's doing it at 4, she only has to get half as many to make as much money.
Yeah. And my buyer presentation that I have, we're turning it into a template to sell on Etsy, because I've noticed on Etsy, there's all kinds of material. So if you need something right now, go onto Etsy.com, ETSY.com. There's tons of real estate material that are templates that you can change with your own information. You can create your own one on Canva or you could buy these templates and just put in your information. Make sure it's Florida specific, make sure it works for you. But there's tons of resources out there for you so that you could prepare your own consultation that's your style and how you like to be, and says all the things that you think are important. But it's more important than ever now to have those formal buyer's consultations and put that buyer's agreement in front of them right then, and that's when they sign it, or do it over Zoom and then send it to them to e-sign and just get it done as at your first appointments with people, because otherwise we're all just wasting our time and not being professionals.
Should we have the investors that call us and text us?
And that's how you get rid of those calls and
day?
texts. Yep, that's how
Oh
you get rid of
my
those calls and
God.
texts. I'd be happy to show you. I have tons of off-market properties. My agents are calling people all day long. We get all kinds of stuff like that. I'd love to help you buy an investment property. My minimum commission is 3%. Send me your email and I'll send you over my agreement, and I'll send you all the properties that I have. And then they go away, or the real ones will come out, right?
I told them I had $1 million property today that was off the market.
Mm-hmm.
He did not respond to me today.
Yeah. But you tell them this is what I charge. And one investor wrote me back, thanks for the transparency and being upfront. But we're not in position to pay that. I'm like, okay, great. Good luck. Go, find your own properties, right? Because that's what I'm doing. Spending tons of money and resources on finding off-market properties to list or buy ourselves. I'm not going to just hand them away to somebody who's not willing to pay me a commission on them. I'll just put them on the MLS. So there's no reason that we have to do the work for investors. If they want to find leads, they know how to. There's plenty of resources for them too.
There you go, guys. If they're not willing to, if they listen to all of your value and they're not willing to sign something, then they're not for you. They're not going to buy. And you guys have seen that before. I've had you guys call me and tell me, your sad story about how they didn't buy with you, they bought with somebody else. And I said, well, did you use buyer brokerage agreement? They wouldn't sign. Yep. No.
Those investors work with a lot of different agents. They're texting all of us. So they've got all these agents trying to find them a house. So they couldn't really even sign one of those.
Yep. And they lie too, because they say, I saw your advertisement. And I'm like, I'm not advertising anything. You did not see my advertisement. So any other questions or comments? On the form, off the form, anything before we go? Yes, Christina.
What are your thoughts on maybe adding into a listing agreement if they're not wanting to, I don't know, they're wanting to offer a smaller commission and they're really adamant they don't want to, just an idea I have, maybe put something in there just saying, hey, if they're saying, I don't want to offer it. I mean, they may change their mind, but maybe say, have them sign something saying, I acknowledge I may not receive as many offers, as much interest because I am opting to not offer a compensation, something like that. Just thinking out loud, really, but.
I like it as a sales tool. I think it gets the point across. I don't know that there's anything, I can run it by a lawyer. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, just a thought. I mean, if somebody is, I don't think that's going to be the majority. I think people are still really going to choose the full service model because that works. But if that's something they're saying, that might make them rethink, like, hey, I acknowledge I may not receive, I'm aware I may not receive as many offers, as much interest because I'm opting to not. Anyway, just thinking out loud. I mean, I guess it's, we've really got a lot of opportunities to be creative and kind of, make this a more of an opportunity than, it's just a change.
I would do my listing agreements at 4%. And if somebody wants to submit an offer with them getting paid, then we'll talk to the seller about it. If somebody wants to, if Ann submits a contract and says, I want my 3%, seller will contribute 3% toward buyer's brokerage per buyer brokerage agreement, then so be it. I got to present that to my seller. And if my seller balks at that, if then you want to come off your 4 to 3, you can, or you do whatever you want, or they can counter Ann at 2.5, or whatever you want to do. These things are all, when they do that, it's all negotiable now, guys. That's the big change. It's all negotiable.
Well, my only question there is like, let's say they come back. I don't know. I just wonder, I don't know. I guess it just comes back to an unknown. Where does that leave us from a liability perspective? I mean,
I don't know, and there's gonna be problems. So what about, there's lots of things to cover here now that commission is negotiable, like it is in commercial transactions. And there are lawsuits for that kind of thing when buyer and seller negotiate you out of a commission, negotiate brokers out of a commission. We agree to this, but we're only paying that. Well, that you can't do that. They certainly can't do it to a listing agent. So the only thing that's not going to be, when I say it's negotiable, I mean negotiable when contracts come in, not just when you write the listing agreement. So it's negotiable when contracts come in, and you're going to be aside from the listing agent's commission, the rest of it's negotiable. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, I just got one in chat, and I'm going to go to Angie. But is that going to affect the NAR? Yeah, it's going to affect. They've got to raise money from somewhere, and guess what? It's like the government raises money. It's from you. There's no magical NAR fairy that's going to pay it. It's going to be over the next 4 years, and 2024 has already been paid, so it's going to be over really the next 3 years dues, I would assume. Those of you who I'll go ahead and announce it again for those of you who missed Monday. We are in the process of starting a Thompson Brokerage. For those of you who don't know what a Thompson Brokerage is, it is a member of NAR, FAR, or your local board that does have MLS. So that's going to, if you want to do that, there are some things that you won't have the benefits of the local board and FAR and NAR, but you will have MLS access. So for some of you guys that might work. And it'll definitely avoid, right now, like $650 for FAR and NAR in your local board. It's going to go up with this NAR thing. What about the money NAR got from us all these years? That just went out the window. They weren't holding it for you anyway. They were already spending it with an exorbitant staff, etc. Angie,
what is it called again?
It's a Thompson Brokerage.
Okay.
Okay, so what happened? I'll give you a brief overview. In Atlanta, many years ago, a group of realtors and brokerages got together and sued for the right to, because they thought it was not fair that they had to join the local board and the National Association, et cetera, to have MLS. That has been done all over the country for many years. People still do it because it is somewhat of a racket. But they lost their case. They took it to an appellate court for the 11th district, which is Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and they were overruled. So it is legal only in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. But you still do not have they're very strict about the access for, I don't know if you guys know this, but boards are MLSs are association owned. And so they are not super friendly about it, and they try to not give you any, obviously, advantages that you get by joining the board and FAR and NAR. I hope that answered that question. Angie. Yes, we have a question in chat about, still 100%. We'll get to, more details will be coming on that. Yes, Angie.
I know we're getting late here, but just another thing I just thought of is that I've recently started adding the buyer agreement to my listing documents. So when I go on a listing presentation and I print out my listing agreement, I've also added in the buyer broker agreement so that I get that signed at the same time. And that's been helpful to talk to people about their next move and where they're going. And even if it's a referral, then I still have that inside track there to be the first one that they talk to about what their next buying is, if it's here or somewhere else. I've also offered, I just did one yesterday with Daniel Vega, one of his leads. We went and did it. They signed both the listing agreement and the buyer agreement. And I've been offering $1,000 cash back on their second transaction. So when they sign the full listing agreement and the 3% buyer agreement, then we're offering them $1,000 on that second transaction. It's been a little way to spur people to make it easier to sign it all.
Awesome. Fantastic. David.
So the main thing about leaving NAR is we won't be bound by the ethics rules anymore. Is that basically the story?
I wouldn't lead the headline with that, but that would be part of it. Yes. Ida.
Hey, Ryan, the Thompson model, isn't this what came about the MLS Advantage?
No,
Is
you
it that?
it's not the MLS Advantage. No, it's a regular MLS. It is the regular MLS, just like you see now.
Okay, I thought it was the
You will
MLS
not call your-
Advantage
you will-
that came about because of that.
No, has nothing
No?
to do with that.
Okay.
No, you're just a regular MLS member, but you're not a board member. You will not call yourself a realtor. You'll call yourself a real estate agent, licensed real estate agent, whatever you want to call yourself. But that's that. Christina, is your hand still up? Or do you have a new question?
Yeah, I thought that is it not part of the thing that they are going to be the local boards are going to be divesting themselves from the MLSs, decoupling themselves?
I don't know that for a fact yet, but regardless, we can do this. So I don't know that. I know right now they own it as a group. They are the shareholders. I'm not sure exactly how that works. I think all the associations that are in like Stellar own Stellar, or at least this version of Stellar, this in this area, but I don't know for sure. Any other questions before we go? And more details will be coming out on that, but it's kind of a cool announcement, and it's kind of a cool thing that we'll be doing. So those of you, it might fit some of your needs, and others of you, if it doesn't, that's fine too. Everything else will be the same. We'll treat you all the same otherwise. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. Ryan, Angie, a lot of information. Team, Christina, everyone. Great, awesome. Thank you very much, everyone.
You bet. Thank you for the good questions and comments. I appreciate all of your participation. I look forward to you guys continuing to do great things. Guys, everybody's still going to want to pay you commission. Just figure it out. You're going to have to work for it, get those buyer brokerage agreements signed. I think that's very important, and get them signed at a good percentage. That's nobody tells you the reason you got in this business. Nobody tells you when to be somewhere, where to be somewhere, unless you want to, but also nobody tells you how much money you can make, right? Nobody gives you don't have a minimum and you don't have a maximum. So get out there and earn it. Be aggressive and sell. You have to, and use those 184 things, or get it down to an amount that you're comfortable with, things that you know real well how to do, and the kind of things that you're going to actually do for your clients. Add value and you'll be paid for it. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Communicate that value to people. That's important. Bye, everybody.